Sophia is crying. Not in public, of course. Queen Sophia never cries in public. She has spent decades perfecting the exact, serene smile she wears when the flashbulbs go off. She has mastered the art of maintaining absolute composure while she is breaking apart on the inside. She carries the heavy dignity of a queen who learned very early on that raw human emotion is a luxury her position simply does not afford her. But this week, my dears, deep within the private corridors of Zarzuela Palace, far away from the cameras, the carefully crafted press releases, and the flawless image the Spanish royal family projects to the world, Sophia is weeping. And why? Because King Juan Carlos asked to come home to Spain for Holy Week. We are talking about an 86-year-old man, a man whose health is rapidly failing, a man sitting utterly alone in Abu Dhabi, trapped in a gilded exile that began as a desperate political strategy to save the crown, but has morphed into a luxurious prison. A king who ruled his country for decades now spends his final days without his family, without the soil of his homeland beneath his feet, facing the terrifying reality that he may not be allowed to die where he lived. Juan Carlos asked for one thing, just one. He asked to return to Spain during the most sacred days of the Christian calendar. He asked to be with his family for Easter, perhaps, my friends, for the very last time. The answer arrived with brutal speed. Letizia said no. Ladies, I must confess, what I'm going to share with you today has been profoundly difficult for me to process. There are certain acts of political cruelty that, while harsh, one can at least understand from a strategic standpoint. But then there are acts of cruelty that transcend any logical or political explanation, acts that can only be explained from a place I don't even want to name yet, though I know every single one of you is already thinking it. Before we go any further, I need to ask you a favor. If you haven't already, please subscribe to this channel right now. Hit the like button. Because the tectonic plates within the Spanish royal family are shifting every single day, and the speed at which this drama is unfolding is breathtaking. I will be right here, unpacking every lie and exposing every hidden truth. Do not miss a single chapter of this saga. Subscribe now. Let us begin with Juan Carlos. Let us look at the frail man behind the fallen king. We must understand what he is enduring this week in Abu Dhabi, and why his plea to return for Easter is so much more than a mere political maneuver. Juan Carlos has been exiled in the United Arab Emirates since August 2020. He was practically smuggled out of the country amidst the deafening roar of financial scandals, offshore accounts, and alleged illegal commissions. At that moment, his presence in Spain was deemed toxic, an existential threat to the pristine image Felipe and Letizia were trying to build for the monarchy. He left with the implicit, whispered promise that this banishment was temporary, that once the turbulent waters calmed, a path home would be quietly cleared. But the waters never truly calmed, and Juan Carlos remains in Abu Dhabi. What his closest confidants are leaking to the press this week is not the portrait of a man who has found peace in his twilight years. It is the tragic portrait of a man growing old and irrelevant, thousands of miles from everything he knows. We are hearing reports of serious health complications, details fiercely guarded by his inner circle, but severe enough to cause deep alarm. He spends his days in a sterile luxury apartment in a foreign land, surrounded by a shrinking circle of loyalists, waiting for phone calls from his family that sometimes ring and very often do not. Now, let me be perfectly clear. Juan Carlos made grave, unforgivable mistakes. I say this plainly because honesty is what separates our community from the sycophantic channels that gloss over the truth. He made choices that deeply wounded his family, humiliated his wife, and severely damaged the institution he spent his life building. That is an undeniable fact, and history will judge him for it. But my dears, Juan Carlos is 86 years old. His body is giving out, and he simply asked to spend Holy Week in Spain. There are moments in life that must transcend our past sins. There are pleas that go beyond palace politics, Swiss bank accounts, and PR strategies. And one of those things is the desperate request of an elderly ailing father to be near his family during the most spiritually significant week of the year. It wasn't a political demand, it was a human plea. And Queen Letizia vetoed it. Let's dissect that veto. How did it happen? And what does it truly reveal about the power dynamics currently suffocating Zarzuela? Easter, or Semana Santa, is arguably the most crucial public relations event of the year for the Spanish royals. The traditional appearance at the cathedral in Palma de Mallorca is iconic. The images of the family united, smiling and devout, are splashed across every newspaper and magazine in the country. It is the ultimate visual proof that this family is exactly what they claim to be: deeply united, respectful of tradition, and rooted in the Christian values that Spain holds dear. But that perfect, sanitized photograph, the flawless image that Letizia has spent years obsessively curating, cannot include Juan Carlos. It simply cannot feature the man who embodies everything this new, modernized monarchy is desperately trying to erase. It cannot include the ghost of corruption and scandal. Letizia saw this with terrifying clarity. Because Letizia always sees things clearly when it comes to brand control. If Juan Carlos is photographed alongside them at Easter Mass, the narrative she has painstakingly built shatters. It would tell a story of a family that hasn't truly broken with its dark past. It would be a visual endorsement of the very man they banished. And so, Letizia stepped in. The sources whispering to the Spanish press this week are absolutely consistent on one chilling detail. This was a direct, unilateral intervention. This was not a painful conclusion reached mutually by Felipe and Letizia after agonizing deliberation. It was Letizia who said no. It was Letizia who decreed that Juan Carlos would not set foot on Spanish soil during Holy Week. Now, from the cold, calculating perspective of political survival, one could argue there is logic to her decision. I can analyze it, even if it turns my stomach. But what I absolutely cannot comprehend, what I find morally repugnant, is the timing. Holy Week, the season of Christian forgiveness. The very days when the Church, the institution this royal family so publicly aligns itself with, preaches mercy, compassion, and the pardoning of past sins. Letizia will proudly walk into the cathedral in Palma next week. She will wear the traditional mantilla. She will bow her head in solemn reverence for the cameras. Yet, she is the exact same woman who personally barred her elderly, sick father-in-law from returning to his homeland during these sacred days. The hypocrisy is so profound, it physically hurts. And now we must speak of Sofia, because Queen Sofia is the bleeding heart of this tragedy. For decades, Sofia has been the most misunderstood, tragically enduring figure in this family. The world knows her as the queen who stayed, the woman who swallowed her pride during the endless, humiliating infidelities, the woman who maintained her regal composure while Juan Carlos played the hero of Spanish democracy, leaving her to be the silent, smiling Greek wife in the background. Sofia endured all of it, not because she was weak, but because her sense of duty was stronger than her personal agony. She understood that the stability of the crown depended entirely on her refusal to turn her private heartbreak into a public spectacle. But despite all the pain he caused her, Juan Carlos is still the father of her children. He is the man she shared a lifetime with. And deep down, in a quiet, complicated corner of her heart, he is still family. And now, that man is sitting in Abu Dhabi, begging to come home for Easter, and her daughter-in-law has slammed the door in his face. The people closest to Sophia are describing a woman who is fundamentally broken this week. This is not her usual dignified, quiet sorrow. This is a deeper, darker grief. It is the shattering realization that a line of cruelty has been crossed that she didn't even know existed. Sophia has endured Letizia cutting her budget. She has endured Letizia systematically isolating her from her own granddaughters, Leonore and Sophia. She has endured Letizia firing her most trusted confidants. Sophia has survived every single calculated move Letizia has made in the bitter Cold War that has consumed Zarzuela for years. But this is different. This isn't just an insult to Sophia. This is an act of ultimate cruelty against an 86-year-old dying man who just wants to see his home. And so Sophia cries. And those tears no camera will ever capture, tears that will never be mentioned in a palace press release, are the truest reflection of the rot currently eating away at the Spanish royal family. Which brings us, inevitably, to King Felipe, the man who holds the ultimate power and who has, once again, chosen the cowardice of silence. Felipe is the King of Spain. He is Sophia's beloved son. He is also Juan Carlos's son, even if that relationship has been sacrificed on the altar of public relations. Felipe knows exactly what is happening. He knows his mother is weeping in the hallways. He knows his father begged to come home for Easter, and he knows his wife vetoed it, and Felipe has done absolutely nothing. My dears, there are only two ways to interpret his silence, and both are devastating. First, Felipe agrees with Letizia. He shares her cold calculation that his father's presence is a PR risk they cannot afford. If this is true, his silence is his complicity. Second, Felipe disagrees, but he is entirely powerless in his own home. He is trapped between a mother who is broken, a wife who dictates his every move, and an institution he is desperate to save. And in that terrifying trap, he has taken the easiest, weakest way out. He has buried his head in the sand. I have tried to be generous to Felipe on this channel in the past. I have tried to understand the impossible weight of the crown. But today, my sympathy has run dry. A son who allows his wife to banish his sick, elderly father during Holy Week while his mother weeps is not a king caught in a difficult political crossfire. He is a man who has made his choice, and his choice honors absolutely no one. The Spanish people are watching this, the women who have respected Queen Sophia for decades, who have seen her sacrifice her life for this country, are watching this unfold. And the overwhelming emotion sweeping through the nation right now is disgust. It is a disgust that has nothing to do with politics. It has to do with basic human decency. How do you treat an old man? What does forgiveness actually mean to a family that parades its Christianity for the cameras every Easter? Next week, Letizia will stand in Palma de Mallorca. The photos will be stunning. The image of the Spanish monarchy will be exactly what she curated it to be. And Juan Carlos will sit by a window in Abu Dhabi, entirely alone. And Queen Sophia will smile for the cameras, hiding the tears she shed in the dark, pretending, yet again, that everything is perfectly fine. Ladies, I need your life experience on this, because this story leaves me with two burning questions, and I want you to answer them in the comments right now. First, does Letizia have the right to banish Juan Carlos during Holy Week to protect the crown? Or is this an act of unforgivable cruelty that no PR strategy can justify. Second, is King Felipe a coward who has abandoned his parents? Or is he simply a monarch doing what must be done to save his throne? Tell me what you think below. I read every single comment, and if you haven't subscribed yet, do it now. We are going to expose every lie they try to tell us next week. Take care of yourselves, my friends. A huge kiss, and I will see you very soon.